The sky over the distant war zone burned red as the enemy forces advanced, their massive ships cutting through the atmosphere like knives. No one expected resistance. For months, they had believed the humans to be weak, scattered, and technologically behind. They thought this war would be a simple conquest, another victory to add to their growing empire. But they had never seen what was coming. Commander Ralvik of the enemy fleet stared at his screens, counting the remaining human outposts. Every sensor showed empty signals. No life, no resistance. Just wait, and we will take everything, he muttered to himself. His fleet moved in a slow, methodical formation, confident and careless. Not a single alarm went off. Not a single warning appeared in the radar. Meanwhile, on the human side, the Council of Earth's fleet commanders gathered in the shadow of their massive command ship. Their aura, every eye was focused on the main screen, showing the enemy approach. Captain Leora, the youngest commander ever to lead the human fleet, stood at the center. Her hands rested lightly on the control panel, her eyes sharp and calculating. "They think we are weak," she said, her voice calm. "They think they can take everything. They are wrong. The humans had prepared for this moment for decades. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon had been designed to work in perfect coordination. Their fleet was small compared to the enemy, but it was built for speed, surprise, and precision. In this moment, the humans were invisible to the enemy's sensors, hidden by advanced stealth technology and clever tactics far above the battlefield. The first human ship slipped quietly through the dark space, unnoticed. They moved like shadows, silent and precise. Leora's voice echoed through the control room. "Remember, no unnecessary movements. Wait until the signal. Then we strike." On the enemy side, nothing seemed unusual. Ralvik ordered a full advance, confident that his fleet would crush any resistance within hours. The enemy fleet spread across the war zone, filling every visible orbit. They had counted on easy victory, but the humans were about to turn their assumptions into disaster. Suddenly, the sensors on the human command ship flickered, and a single word appeared on the main screen. Now, Leora pressed a series of buttons, and the fleet responded instantly. The silence of the battlefield was broken by the sound of engines roaring to life. Though the enemy could not hear it yet, every human ship activated its weapons systems simultaneously, aligning perfectly in formation. Without warning, the first wave of attacks hit. Energy beams cut through the enemy's defensive shields, slicing the lead ships in half before they even knew what had happened. Missiles fired from hidden positions, striking multiple targets with deadly precision. Explosions lit the dark sky, painting it with fire and smoke. The enemy fleet tried to respond, but their sensors were overloaded, their systems confused. Every ship they fired at had already moved, vanished, or attacked from a new direction. Ralvik's confidence turned to panic. "What is happening?" He shouted as alarms blared across his command center. His officers scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The humans were everywhere at once, appearing and disappearing with unnatural speed. Entire squadrons of the enemy fleet were destroyed in minutes. The battlefield, once thought to be under enemy control, was now chaos. Captain Leora watched calmly, almost detached. Her fleet moved like a single living organism, every ship following precise commands. She had trained them for this, prepared them for the impossible. The humans were not just fighting, they were rewriting the rules of war. The enemy had expected a battle. They were getting annihilation, even from a distance. The scale of the destruction was visible. Massive explosions tore through enemy capital ships, sending debris and fire across the dark space. Communications went silent, and panic spread across the enemy ranks. There was no plan, no counterattack that could match the speed and strategy of the humans. Every attempt to escape was cut off, every maneuver anticipated, and yet, Leora did not allow herself to feel triumph. She knew the war was far from over. The humans had won this first encounter, but the enemy still had vast resources, still had more ships hidden in distant sectors. Every commander in the human fleet understood the stakes. This was the first strike, the warning shot that would echo across the galaxy. The humans had arrived, and they were a force that could not be ignored. As the enemy fleet scattered in panic, the humans regrouped silently. No ship had been lost, not a single human life wasted. The battlefield belonged to them now, if only temporarily. Leora's eyes scanned the screens, calculating, planning the next move. She knew the enemy would recover, would strike back with fury. But for now, she allowed herself a small, quiet satisfaction. The humans had shown their power. They had arrived out of nowhere, and the enemy had paid the price. The war had begun in a way no one expected. The humans were no longer hidden, no longer underestimated, and in the shadows of the burning war zone, the galaxy would begin to realize that humans were a dangerous force, one that could crush entire armies without warning, one that would not be stopped easily. The enemy had retreated, but their panic left trails of fire and broken ships across the war zone. For most, it was a terrifying sight, entire fleets disappearing in minutes. Captain Leora observed the battlefield from the command deck of the Aurora. Her eyes scanned the wreckage, noting every detail. She knew the humans had made a statement, but victory was not yet theirs. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Kieran, broke the silence. "Captain, we are receiving signals from the outer sectors. Enemy reinforcements are on the move. Hundreds of ships heading this way." Leora's expression remained calm. "Let them come," she said softly, almost to herself. "We have prepared for this. Every human ship is ready. Every soldier is ready. We will not retreat." Meanwhile, deep in the remnants of the enemy fleet, Commander Ralvik struggled to regain control. His pride had been shattered, and his mind raced with fear and anger. "We underestimated them," he admitted aloud, though no one around him dared respond. "They are faster, smarter, stronger. If we do not change our tactics, we are finished." The enemy scrambled to form new formations, but the humans had already anticipated this. Leora activated the fleet's stealth arrays, and the human ships vanished from the enemy's sensors. One by one, they slipped into the enemy's blind spots, surrounding the reinforcements before the enemy even knew they were there. As the first reinforcements entered the war zone, the humans struck, not all at once this time, but in precise, deadly waves. Smaller human ships darted between massive enemy warships, firing high-speed missiles and energy pulses that destroyed shields before the enemy could respond. Human pilots moved with skill and coordination that seemed impossible, predicting enemy movements before they happened. On the enemy side, chaos grew. Ralvik shouted orders, but his commanders were overwhelmed. Every time they tried to regroup, a new human attack cut them off. The humans were everywhere and nowhere at the same time, their fleet striking like a single living being. Back on the Aurora, Leora watched the unfolding battle. "Kieran, target their command ships. Disable their communications first. We need them confused and isolated." "Yes, Captain," Kieran replied, typing rapidly. The fleet responded instantly. A series of precise strikes disabled the enemy command vessels, leaving their forces without direction. Panic spread even faster now. Ships collided, missiles misfired, and entire squadrons lost coordination. The humans moved with terrifying precision, leaving no margin for the enemy to recover. Amid the chaos, Leora noticed something unusual. A massive enemy dreadnought had moved into position far beyond the usual fleet lines. Its presence was alarming, a potential turning point. "This ship is dangerous," she muttered. "We cannot allow it to regroup." She called for the fastest strike team in the fleet. A small squadron of elite ships surged toward the dreadnought, weaving through enemy fire like ghosts. Every maneuver was calculated. Every weapon fired hit its mark. The enemy tried to retaliate, but the human squadron was already gone before their lasers could lock on. Explosions tore through the dreadnought's hull, and for a moment, silence filled the war zone. Then, the ship erupted in a blinding fireball, scattering debris in all directions. The enemy forces around it faltered, their morale shattered completely. Leora allowed herself a brief smile. The humans had won this encounter too, but she knew it was only the beginning. The enemy was vast, and their resources were enormous. Still, the humans had proven something crucial. They were unpredictable, unstoppable, and dangerous beyond imagination. As the surviving enemy ships retreated once more, human forces gathered to repair, regroup, and prepare for the next wave. Leora walked through the command deck, her mind already planning the next moves. She knew the war would not be easy, but she also knew the humans had a gift the enemy could never match: unity, courage, and cunning. From the shadows of the broken battlefield, the humans' presence became legend almost immediately. Every destroyed enemy ship, every fearless pilot, and every successful maneuver spread fear across enemy ranks. They had learned the hard way that humans were not to be underestimated, and so the war continued. But now the enemy knew that the humans were no longer the weak race they had assumed. Something extraordinary had begun in the galaxy, and the humans were leading it with skill, courage, and a power that no enemy could ignore. The remnants of the enemy fleet fled into the distant sectors, their engines leaving trails of smoke and sparks across the war zone. On the human side, the fleet had regrouped quickly, repairing minor damage and reloading weapons. Captain Leora stood on the command deck of the Aurora, her gaze fixed on the dark expanse ahead. She knew this retreat was temporary. The enemy would return, stronger and more determined than ever. "Kieran," she said, pointing to the sensors, scanning outer sectors for hidden forces. "I want no surprises." Lieutenant Kieran nodded, his fingers flying over the controls. "Scanning now, Captain. There is something unusual, but it is faint. It looks like a fleet moving slowly, hiding in a shadow field." Leora's eyes narrowed. "Prepare the intercept squadron. We can't let them regroup unnoticed." As the humans moved into position, the enemy's hidden fleet shifted. This was no ordinary reinforcement. The ships were massive, heavily armed, and heavily shielded. Commander Ravik had learned from his earlier mistakes. He was not underestimating the humans this time. He had hidden his most dangerous vessels behind advanced stealth technology, hoping to catch the humans off guard, but the humans were ready. Leora's strategy relied not only on firepower, but on anticipation. She understood the enemy's tactics, their patterns, their thinking. Humans had studied countless battles, prepared for countless scenarios, and trained to adapt faster than any other species. The intercept squadron launched silently, weaving through asteroids and debris. Closing in on the hidden fleet dot suddenly, the enemy activated their shields, revealing their positions. Massive beams of energy cut through space, forcing the humans to dodge in perfect synchrony. Missiles streaked across the darkness, exploding with deafening force. Yet every move the humans made was precise. They avoided the attacks, returned fire, and began taking down the enemy's outer defenses. Ravik's voice boomed across his command bridge. "Focus on the small ships first. Don't let them penetrate our lines." But the humans did not attack randomly. Leora had calculated every angle. Her small strike teams hit weak points with deadly accuracy, disabling critical systems before the enemy could react. The massive dreadnoughts, despite their size and firepower, could not target all the agile human ships at once. Slowly, the enemy's defenses began to crumble. Back on the Aurora, Leora gave precise commands. "Squadron Alpha, take the left flank and draw their fire. Squadron Beta, move in from the right and hit their command ships." We hit them together, perfectly timed. The plan worked flawlessly. Energy beams cut through the lead ships, and missiles struck the command centers. The enemy struggled to respond, their coordination faltering as panic spread among their ranks. Ravik gritted his teeth, realizing that no matter how advanced his technology, it could not match the human strategy and speed. In minutes, the battlefield shifted. The hidden enemy fleet was exposed, damaged, and disoriented. Human ships darted in and out, delivering precise attacks, then vanishing before retaliation could come. Every strike was deliberate, calculated, and devastating. Finally, a massive explosion lit the dark expanse. One of the enemy dreadnoughts, the largest and most powerful in their fleet, erupted in flames, sending debris flying in all directions. The remaining enemy ships scattered, some escaping, some destroyed, and many left paralyzed by the humans' relentless assault. Leora watched silently as the battlefield cleared. She did not celebrate. There was no time for it. The humans had proven their superiority again, but the enemy's empire was vast. The war was far from over. Still, one fact had become undeniable. Humans were now a force that no one could ignore. Even in retreat, the enemy had learned a hard lesson. They had assumed humans were weak, predictable, and easy to destroy. They had discovered the opposite. Humans were fast, clever, united, and unstoppable when they worked together. As the human fleet regrouped, repairs were made, and supplies replenished. Leora addressed her commanders. "They will return. We have delayed them, yes, but we have not ended the war. We will prepare for the next battle, and next time we will be even stronger. Remember, they fear us now, but fear alone is not enough. Strategy, speed, and precision will win this war." The commanders nodded, their determination reflecting Leora's calm confidence. Humans had turned the war zone into their advantage, and the galaxy would remember this day, not for the destruction alone, but for the arrival of a race that refused to be underestimated. Somewhere deep in enemy space, Ravik stared at the reports of his fleet's destruction. His face was pale, and anger burned in his eyes. He knew the humans were no ordinary fighters. They were something different, something dangerous, and he vowed that the next encounter would be decisive. But for now, the humans had claimed the battlefield again. Leaving the enemy stunned and fearful of what was to come, the war continued. But with every passing moment, the humans proved that they were not just participants, they were the unpredictable, unstoppable force that would shape the outcome. And the galaxy, for the first time, had begun to realize just how dangerous humans could be. Weeks had passed since the last battle, but the humans did not rest. Every ship in the fleet underwent repairs, refueling, and upgrades. Pilots trained tirelessly, running simulations and practicing maneuvers over and over. Captain Leora stood on the bridge of the Aurora, watching her fleet move in perfect formation. She knew the enemy was recovering, planning, and hiding somewhere in the vast sectors of space. The next strike could come at any moment, and the humans had to be ready. Lieutenant Karen approached with a worried expression. "Captain, we've detected unusual activity near the Korvax Nebula. Massive energy readings, but the fleet is cloaked. I think they are preparing something big." Leora's eyes narrowed. Korvax Nebula. That place is perfect for an ambush. We need to strike first, and strike carefully. Prepare the scout ships. I want full recon before we move in. As the scouts entered the nebula, the enemy fleet remained hidden. They had learned from past mistakes and strengthened their tactics. Massive warships floated in the shadows, their sensors cloaked, waiting for the humans to enter. Commander Ralvik had studied the humans' previous attacks, predicting their movements, and he was determined to trap them this time. The scouts returned quickly. "Captain, it's a trap," one pilot reported. "The enemy fleet is ready, and their firepower is enormous. If we attack head-on, we will lose half our fleet immediately." Leora remained calm. "Then we don't attack head-on. We move in waves, strike their weak points, and force them to overextend. Let them make mistakes." She turned to the fleet commanders. "This is not just a battle. It is a test of strategy, patience, and coordination. Follow my orders, and we will control the battlefield." The humans moved into the nebula with silent precision. Shadows of massive enemy ships loomed, hidden by dense gas clouds. The humans did not panic. They had trained for this. Small squads moved first, darting between massive rocks and energy fields, scanning for openings. Energy beams flashed across the darkness, but every human ship was agile and careful. Ralvik watched from his command bridge as the humans advanced. "They are coming," he muttered. "Let them enter. We will crush them with the full fleet." But Leora anticipated this. As the humans entered the trap, they split into multiple coordinated waves. Missiles fired from hidden positions, striking enemy shields. Energy beams cut through armor. Small strike teams moved in and out like ghosts, dismantling weapons systems and disabling engines. The enemy tried to respond, but every move they made was countered. Every formation collapsed under the humans' precise attacks. Massive explosions lit up the nebula as entire enemy ships were destroyed. Debris floated through the gas clouds, masking the humans' movements. Pilots felt almost invisible, untouchable. Ralvik's confidence crumbled. He had prepared what he thought was the perfect ambush, but the humans turned it against him. Leora's calm voice echoed over the fleet's communications. "Keep pressure on them. Strike their command ships. We control the battlefield now. Do not give them a chance to regroup." The humans' attacks were relentless, but calculated. They disabled enemy ships one by one, forcing the rest into chaotic retreat. Even the most powerful vessels were slowed, damaged, and forced to abandon their positions. For every enemy ship destroyed, another human ship remained unscathed, moving with perfect coordination and timing. Finally, the largest dreadnought of the enemy fleet exploded, sending shockwaves through the nebula. The remaining enemy ships scattered into the void, their morale shattered. Once again, the humans had turned the tide. Once again, they had shown that no trap, no hidden fleet, no advanced weapon could match their strategy and unity. As the nebula settled into silence, Leora walked across the command deck, observing the fleet. Her face was calm, but her mind raced. They had won, but the enemy was not finished. They would return, stronger and more cunning than before. She turned to Kieran. "Prepare reports. We need to track their next movements. If they think they can hide or strike without being seen, they are mistaken. Humans are everywhere now, and they will not be stopped somewhere in the distant sectors." Ralvik stared at the reports of his destroyed ambush. Anger and fear burned in his eyes. The humans were not just a force of combat, they were a force of intellect, coordination, and determination. And the galaxy was beginning to understand something terrifying. Humans were unpredictable, unstoppable, and more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. The enemy fleet had retreated to the outer sectors, battered and broken, but not defeated. Captain Leora knew this was only a temporary lull. The humans had won every engagement so far, but the war was far from over. The enemy would return, stronger and more prepared. Leora gathered her fleet commanders on the bridge of the Aurora. "We cannot wait for them to strike first. We must take the fight to them," she said, her voice calm but commanding. Lieutenant Kieran nodded. "Sensors show a massive enemy base on the planet Varkin Prime. They are repairing ships, stockpiling weapons, and preparing for the next assault. If we hit them there, we could cripple their fleet for months." Leora's eyes gleamed with determination. "Then that is where we go. Prepare the fleet. We strike at dawn, every ship ready for combat, every pilot ready for orders. This will be their first real warning that humans control the battlefield." As the human fleet approached Varkin Prime, the enemy detected them almost immediately. Commander Ralvik had fortified the planet's defenses, surrounded it with massive orbital platforms and automated defense grids. He had learned from past mistakes. No ship would enter the system without facing the full brunt of his firepower, but the humans were not afraid. They moved like shadows, invisible to most enemy sensors thanks to advanced stealth technology. Leora coordinated attacks from multiple angles, splitting her fleet into precise formations. Each strike team had a target, each pilot knew their role. Chaos would meet order, and humans would control the outcome. As the first wave approached the orbital defenses, energy beams fired from massive turrets. Explosions rocked human ships, but the fleet moved with astonishing coordination. Fighters dodged fire, small strike ships disabled turrets, and larger human cruisers fired long-range missiles to create openings. Ralvik shouted commands across his bridge. "Do not let them land. Fire everything. Destroy them before they reach the planet." But Leora had already calculated his tactics. She sent a small elite squadron to flank the defenses, while the main fleet attacked from the opposite side. Missiles and energy beams tore through the enemy's shields, striking the heart of the orbital platforms. Ships toppled and exploded in rapid succession. The battle was intense, faster and deadlier than any humans had faced before. The enemy's best pilots tried to intercept, while human squads moved with precision no enemy could match. Every strike weakened the planet's defenses further, forcing the enemy into disarray. Finally, the humans broke through the outer ring of defenses. Large cruisers entered orbit around Varkin Prime, and the fleet fired coordinated volleys at the repair docks and stockpiles. Massive explosions tore through the enemy base, destroying fuel reserves, weapons, and supply ships. Ralvik's reinforcements were scattered and isolated, unable to assist their comrades. On the Aurora, Leora observed the destruction calmly. "Kieran, make sure civilian zones are safe. Collateral damage must be minimal. We fight the army, not the planet's people." "Yes, Captain," Kieran replied, scanning rapidly. "We are targeting only military zones. Civilians remain unharmed." The enemy forces fought desperately, but it was too late. Their strongest ships were crippled, their fleets scattered, and their morale shattered. The humans had not only attacked, they had dominated, turning a heavily fortified enemy base into ruins in a single, coordinated strike. Ralvik watched the devastation unfold, his hands clenched in rage. His empire had never faced a foe like this. Humans were fast, precise, and unstoppable. They struck without warning, adapted faster than any strategy, and destroyed his most carefully prepared defenses. Fear began to spread among his officers. The humans were no ordinary enemy, they were a force of nature. Leora's voice came over the fleet communications. "Prepare for extraction. We have achieved our objective. Let the enemy recover in fear. This is only the beginning." They now know humans are not to be underestimated. As the human fleet retreated from Varkin Prime, silence returned to the battlefield. The enemy forces were broken, scattered, and confused. Humans had struck deep into enemy territory, proving that strategy, courage, and unity could overcome even the most powerful defenses from the shadows of space. The humans watched the enemy lick their wounds. Every battle won, every victory claimed, sent a clear message across the galaxy: humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and unstoppable. And in every sector, whispers began spreading among enemy fleets. The humans were no longer just a threat. They were the storm that would not be contained. The destruction at Varkin Prime sent shockwaves across the enemy empire. Commander Ralvik could no longer hide behind clever traps or hidden fleets. His strongest forces had been broken, his best ships destroyed, and his empire shaken. The humans had proven that no defense was safe, no plan perfect. And now, he had no choice but to confront them directly. Captain Leora knew this moment would come. From the bridge of the Aurora, she watched the sensors fill with incoming enemy ships. This was no scattered fleet or retreating force. This was everything the enemy had left: massive warships, dreadnoughts bristling with weapons, and squads of elite pilots determined to avenge their losses. The humans would be tested like never before. All ships, prepare for combat. This is what we trained for, Leora said calmly. We will not let them take the initiative. Remember your positions. Remember your training. Strike as one. The human fleet moved into formation, larger and more confident than ever. Every ship knew its role. Every pilot knew their maneuvers. Together, they formed a deadly, coordinated force that could strike faster than the enemy could react. The enemy opened fire as soon as they reached striking distance. Energy beams lanced across space, and massive explosions rocked the battlefield. The humans dodged with skill and precision, using every evasive maneuver they had learned. Leora's strike teams attacked from multiple directions, targeting weapon systems and shields first. Missiles streaked through the darkness, disabling dreadnought after dreadnought. Ralvik's fleet fought desperately. Do not let them break through. Concentrate fire on their command ships, he ordered, but his words fell short. The humans were already several steps ahead. Every attack he launched was predicted, avoided, or countered with devastating effect. Leora observed calmly. Kirin, target their flagship. Their command must be disabled. We end this battle decisively. Yes, Captain, Kirin replied, initiating precise calculations. A small squadron surged toward the enemy flagship, weaving through heavy fire. Every move was exact. Every strike hit its mark. Energy beams tore through the flagship's shields, weapon systems melted, and engines faltered. The massive ship erupted in a fiery explosion, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. The enemy fleet faltered. Without leadership, without direction, chaos spread among their ranks. Dreadnoughts collided, squadrons scattered, and morale collapsed completely. The humans pressed the advantage, attacking relentlessly, but without unnecessary risk. Every ship remained coordinated, every pilot executing the plan perfectly. Leora's voice rang across the fleet. Push forward. Finish this. Show them why humans are unstoppable. The final wave of enemy ships attempted to flee, but the humans anticipated every escape route. Strike teams intercepted and destroyed the remaining vessels with surgical precision. The enemy fleet, once so vast and powerful, was now reduced to ruins. Commander Ralvik's face reflected disbelief and fear. He had underestimated humans at every turn, and now his empire had suffered the consequences. When the last enemy ship was destroyed, silence filled the war zone. The humans had won, not by luck, not by numbers, but through strategy, courage, and unity. Every pilot, every ship, every commander had played a part. Humans had proven they were the dominant force, a race to be feared and respected across the galaxy. Leora turned from the battle screens, her calm expression hiding the intensity of her thoughts. This war is not over, but today, we have shown them the cost of underestimating humans. They will think twice before challenging us again. The fleet gathered. Repairs and resupply already underway. Even as the humans prepared for future battles, the legend of their victory spread across the stars. Every sector, every fleet, every commander in the enemy empire now knew the truth. Humans were a force unlike any other. Unpredictable, unstoppable, and united beyond imagination. Somewhere in the depths of space, Ralvik retreated with a few surviving ships. Fear burned in his eyes. He knew the humans would come again, stronger and more dangerous. The galaxy had witnessed something new, the rise of humans as the ultimate warforce, capable of crushing entire fleets without warning, and the echoes of this battle would resonate for generations to come. The battlefield was quiet now. The debris of destroyed enemy ships floated through space, glinting in the dim light of distant stars. Captain Leora stood on the bridge of the Aurora, her eyes scanning the remnants of the enemy fleet. For months, humans had fought with strategy, courage, and unity, and now the final battle had been won. Even the survivors of the enemy empire dared not return. Commander Ralvik's forces had been shattered beyond repair. Their arrogance, their overconfidence, and their underestimation of humans had cost them everything. For the first time, the galaxy had witnessed humans not as a small, weak species, But as a force to be feared, respected, and admired, Leora turned to her fleet commanders. "We have achieved more than victory. We have shown the galaxy who we are, not through luck, not through numbers, but through skill, planning, and courage. Humans are no longer underestimated. Today, we have changed the rules of war." The fleet cheered silently, their expressions a mix of pride and exhaustion. Pilots, engineers, and soldiers alike knew that every maneuver, every strike, every decision had mattered. Every human ship had contributed to this moment, and together, they had proven the impossible. In the distance, the remains of the enemy command ships drifted, lifeless and broken. The humans moved carefully through the wreckage, salvaging what they could, and ensuring that no threat remained hidden. The galaxy was now theirs to secure, and humans had claimed their place as a dominant force among the stars. Captain Leora allowed herself a small smile. This was not the end. Wars would come, and threats would rise again. But the humans had sent a clear message. No fleet could challenge them without consequence. No empire could ignore them, and no one would ever mistake them for weak again. For the first time in the long campaign, the humans relaxed, even slightly. Ships returned to formation, engines idling as they prepared to leave the war zone. Pilots spoke quietly of their experiences, of the danger they had faced, and the victories they had achieved. Every face reflected the pride of a species that had fought not just to survive, but to dominate. Back on the Aurora, Leora looked at the galaxy beyond the viewport. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction, and among them, new possibilities awaited. The humans had arrived out of nowhere, striking with precision and power, and now, the galaxy would never forget. Commander Ralvik, retreating to the farthest edges of his empire, knew that he had faced something beyond comprehension. Humans were no ordinary race, they were cunning, unstoppable, and united in a way no enemy could match. Fear had settled in his mind, and he realized that the humans were no longer just participants in the war. They were the dominant force, the storm that could not be contained. Captain Leora finally turned away from the viewport. "Prepare for the journey home," she said. "We have proven ourselves, but this is only the beginning. Humans will continue to grow stronger, and the galaxy will remember this day forever." As the human fleet departed the war zone, the stars seemed brighter, the darkness less threatening. Every ship carried not just the victory of battle, but the knowledge that humans were no longer to be underestimated. They had arrived, they had struck, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The war had tested them, challenged them, and pushed them beyond their limits. But the humans had prevailed, not by chance, not by numbers, but by unity, intelligence, and courage. Their fleet had arrived out of nowhere, crushed their enemies, and reshaped the future of the galaxy. And for Captain Leora and her crew, the knowledge of what they had achieved would echo through every star for generations to come. The humans had won. The humans had arrived, and the galaxy had learned a simple, undeniable truth. Never underestimate a human.